Hello everyone, I'm Lee Carroll.
And I'm Monika Muryani.
I want to welcome you to a program. It's the first of a series. It's something that I've wanted to do for some time, and we're calling this Topics for Our Times. This will be a brand new free series. It'll happen just whenever it happens, so watch for it. And I'm going to call these Human Stories That Can Heal the Heart. Human stories that have healed the heart. About things that often go unspoken. So much in our society, things around the world that are simply kept under the covers, under the hood, and you just don't talk about it. And yet these are things that are everywhere, and these are things that will heal the heart. Stories of compassion, compassionate action, and journeys of forgiveness. Are you interested? I hope so. And our first guest, I'm going to let Monika tell you all about her.
So we have joining us today a beautiful angel by the name of Eliza Anne McDaniel. And I'm going to just read to you something that is on her website. Too often, families appear outwardly normal while hiding dark secrets. Behind Closed Doors, her first book, unveils a true life journey of child sexual abuse, breaking the silence once and for all, and inspiring others to do the same. Told in a narrative that spans generations, the novel reveals the insidious nature of pedophilia and the challenge to find self-worth, self-love, and a life of dignity after unspeakable betrayal. And so please, dearest Eliza, brave and courageous as you are, share with us your story and the journey that eventually led you to self-healing.
I'm really grateful and thankful to be here. And it has been a very, very long journey for me, actually like in two parts. So going to my childhood, my dad was, and I didn't even realize this until I was in my 40s, my dad was a pedophile. And not only did he molest and rape myself and my twin sister, but my other two sisters, a lot of our friends and their friends, and whoever he may have during his lifetime. If it's okay, I'd like to just read a poem, and it would be kind of give you an idea of what I went through without going into so much detail. And I wrote this several years ago after I was healed. And I wrote this in memory of my mother. So in my younger years, an emotional mess, mental, sexual, physical abuse, how could I be blessed? A loving daddy I thought I knew, but the love he gave was not so true. So many cross signals of affection shattered my being, becoming disconnected. I created a world of happiness, locking away all the pain, but at times it would rear its ugly head until the tears fell down like rain. I always felt so all alone, no one could ever see. The fear of footsteps at my door and no one to rescue me. I closed my eyes as the door slowly opened, knowing who was there. Praying real hard it would soon be over. It was more than I could bear. My voice is muffled by pain and fear. Tears fill up my eyes. Do daddies do this to all little girls? And do they ever hear their cries? Life goes on and I'm older now. My dad is in his grave. But God hasn't forgotten me. My life he wants to save. He put me through fiery trials, one that burned for many years, to bring me out as pure as gold and wash away my fears. The dysfunction that was in my life was the major key to bring me where I am today and finally set me free. So now I look back in time, not seeing such a mess, for when I learned to love myself, I saw that I was blessed. And
that is just, forgive me to interrupt, but that is so beautiful and so touching. I was holding back the tears, of course, and I'm sure there were many watching who were just letting those tears flow. And tell us that defining moment where you realized, that pain, you had to kind of break free of that. And some people never do. So what was that for you?
And the other thing, too, that was fascinating just in what you've said is that it took you till your 40s to realize who he was.
Right.
And even though all of this had happened. Now, I also know as we talk that you're not just talking about your life. You're talking about tens of thousands of women who eventually may even watch this program and giving them some hope on what you've done.
Right.
Yeah.
And with the child trafficking coming out now, that the light's being shed on that darkness, I think now's the perfect time for people like me to come out and share, because it's not only the child trafficking. This is in our homes. It's in our churches and schools. I mean, it's everywhere. It's in clubs. And most people don't say anything because the abuser normally knows how to keep their victims quiet by threatening them or whatever, they choose to do. For my dad, he did threaten us. He always carried a .38 with him. And he would tell us, I will kill you. I will kill you. So between that and his temper and the grooming at age 5, or 4.5 or 5 years old, it kept our mouths shut for a long time. And none of us had ever come out. It wasn't until I went through this long journey that, and through the healing process, that I was able to share my story. And I wanted to share my story to help others like myself, that through forgiveness, it sets you free. And a lot of people will throw their hand up at forgiveness. They will get mad and because they're not ready to forgive. They'll say, how can I forgive somebody for doing what they did to me? And, everybody will be able to forgive in their own time, but I'm here to share that when you do forgive from your heart, it is a feeling like no other. I felt the love of Spirit all over me, and it seemed like my ancestors and everybody was over me, and it was such an amazing feeling. I can't even describe how beautiful it was. And I was set free from all the pain inside of me. So now I can look back on the things that had happened, and there's no pain attached to it. And during my life, when I wasn't healed, I always say, if you don't heal from what hurt you, then you'll bleed on those that didn't cut you. And that's true. That is so true, because you take out all those those emotions, the anger and the guilt and the shame and the hatred and unforgiveness and all of that. You take that out on your loved ones.
There had to be some kind of a defining moment, I would imagine, when you said, I'm going to work this out. Not necessarily the books that you're going to write, but for yourself, instead of carrying it like most do. Yeah.
Well, I think what happened that got the ball rolling was when I was 24, I found out my dad had pancreatic cancer. And when I turned 25, he was in the hospital, and he was on his last weeks or however. I was asleep one morning, and he called and asked me to come up to the hospital. I said, are you okay? He goes, yes, I just need to talk to you. And I said, okay. So I drove up to the hospital. And at this point, he used to weigh about 265 pounds. At this point in time, he was about 75 pounds. So he was laying in the bed with all the machines and everything connected to him. And when I walked into the room, he patted the side of the bed and told me to come sit down. Now, remember, I'm 25 years old and I'm not healed yet. And that in itself made me, a little nervous. And so when I sat down, tears were welling up in his eyes, and he grabbed my hand and he said, could you ever forgive me for what I did to you? And at that very moment, all of those emotions of guilt and shame, embarrassment, humiliation, anger, hatred, and even love for my dad just hit me all at once. And I just quickly said, I forgive you. And even though it wasn't a reality in my heart at the moment, part of me wanted to forgive him and part of me did forgive him, but it wasn't 100% at that time. And what I didn't realize was the spiritual baton was being handed to me that day, because I was the one to bring about the healing in my family that I didn't know at that point in time. And so I'm getting chills. And so my journey continued. He died probably a couple of weeks later, and my journey continued. I got married about 2 years later, and had a son about a year later. It was at that particular time that all that pain was still welling up inside of me, and of course, I didn't know what it was at the time. And so one day, I just dropped to my knees and I begged God, please, please, please take this pain away from me. I can't do it anymore. I can't take it anymore. It comes out in yelling and screaming, and I know I'm hurting people by yelling and screaming and having a bad temper. And I did. I must have cried for an hour or so, begging God to please take the pain away from me. And then a few years later, the strange journey began, which is in book 2, by the way.
Yeah, let's right now. Maybe it's a good time or not time, but you can fill in the cracks. The difference, outstanding, between book 1 and book 2.
Okay, so book 1 is basically it's an introduction to my family before I was born, my parents, and all the way up to my 40s until I started wanting more spiritual things in my life and just having a godly life. And so with that being said, a friend of mine, which I call Granny, she used to have spiritual gatherings at her home. And she would bring in awakened ministers, those that came out of the church system, and that would come in probably once a month and teach. And boy, I just fell in love with that. And after a while, I started helping her bring in ministry. Well, I brought in this one man, and pretty soon we became really good friends, him and his wife and kids and my family at that time. And as the months went by, he had come down to my house one time, and him and I used to go out for a walk because nobody else wanted to go for a walk, but him and I did. So we would enjoy the walk around the neighborhood. So one day he took me, asked me if I wanted to go for a walk, and I said, yeah. So when we started our walk, all of a sudden his demeanor changed and he got really serious. And I said, what's wrong? And he goes, I really need to talk to you. He said, I was driving one day and Spirit came upon me so strong and just pulled me over. He goes, I couldn't drive. He said, your life as you know it is about to change. And my first response was, oh my God, is somebody going to die? And because I've had so much death in my family. And he said, no, nobody's going to die. He said, but God's bringing you into a higher place and nobody else is coming with you. And your life is going to be totally unrecognizable from what you used to know it. And that is so long. That you're going to be inheriting a ministry along with him and another man, which is a professional singer and minister, that he can't give me his name at that point. And so at this point, I'm like really excited. And he told me that God was going to give me a healing ministry. And so back then I'm thinking about having a healing ministry in the church. And touching people and healing them, because that's what my heart has always wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so time went on, and all of a sudden I started having some spiritual dreams. So one of the dreams that I really, really loved was I was outside, and God put the coat of many colors on me. And he spoke in a loud voice. I couldn't see anything, It was just all of a sudden I had this coat draped over me. And he spoke out loud, and he said, "You are the Joseph of your family." And I was so excited, and I was going, oh, and I was rubbing the coat, and I was going, "Thank you, God. Thank you, thank you." Well, when I woke up, I'm like, I didn't know what that meant. And so I was never church. So, I mean, I heard about the story of Joseph. So I got my Bible out, and I started reading the story of Joseph, but still couldn't put the connections together at all. So I just kind of let it go, and life went on. And it ended up where this preacher friend of mine, I ended up getting a divorce, what he said I was going to do. And then shortly after, his wife wanted a divorce from him. So it was just him and I in the ministry, and it seemed like everything was coming together. But long story short, he ended up taking me for everything I had. Mm-hmm. So I lost everything, and that was another person that I had to forgive. And it was like 3 days later after he left that I found myself on my knees again, crying out to God. And I just said, "I forgive you. I forgive you." And once again, there was that love of spirit that just came over me. And I was set free from everything, from all the pain and betrayal that he not only put on me, but a lot of my friends and family members, and also other people that he came across during his lifetime. But what I found out was it was because of that particular journey that healed me from my past wounds. And because he was the only person that I could share those horrible times with and get it out in the mm-hmm. open. And he was always there for me mm-hmm. and helping me with that. And, as strange and complicated as that particular journey was, my healing came out of that. And for that, I'm forever, ever grateful. And it's also taught me how to work with the inner child, not only for myself, but now I can see some victims that turn into a child, which I had never seen that before. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have never seen it if I hadn't have experienced it. And so there was a family member actually that turned into that little child, and I was there for her and was able to comfort and help them through that particular hard time in their life. And there would be no way I would be able to do that without these experiences through that particular minister.
Eliza, I wanted to say too, is that all of those gals who are watching this now who say, like, I haven't had any of those experiences, and I'm sitting here, nothing's really changed, and what do I do? What can I do right now, personally, to get on a track where I can forgive?
Well, as you know, it stems from the heart. It actually stems from the heart. If somebody really wants to forgive, I just say to go to your heart center and focus on them and truly forgive from the heart. And you may not feel or see anything at that moment, or you might. I did at that moment. But when you forgive from the heart, truly forgive, you will have, I would say you would have that moment. And then it just sets you free from the prison that's in your mind. Because you know as well as I do, when you think about something that's happened before you're healed, you just replay that horrible experience over and over and over. And it's like you're right there in the moment, and it never goes away. And when you do forgive, now you can think of those things and there's no pain attached to it whatsoever.
I'm going to even call this a form of spontaneous remission. It's when you trigger that forgiveness and you mean it and you cognize it. I think the body and the innate is all ready then to perform all the other processes that will remove the dreams and remove all of the things that, it's a life changer. It is a form of fantastic, profound healing.
It really is. It was one of the most wonderful experiences in my life, forgiving my dad and also forgiving Monty for what he did. But going back to my dad, I remember you saying, how people think that everything's normal in their household. And even though it was normal in my household, deep inside I knew there was something wrong with it. So much so that when I was about 7 years old, 7, 8, 9 years old, you know, back then, I don't know if they still do it, we'd go to our little friends' birthday parties and sleepover pajama parties. Well, I would lay there after everybody went to bed. You know, all the girls would be laying all over the floor. And I would be laying there waiting for the dad to come in to molest me. That's how I thought everybody did. That's what I would go through my little 7-year-old mind. And I would lay there wide awake to wee hours of the morning. And of course, that dad would never come in. So in the morning, I would try to think of things of why he didn't come in and molest me that night. You know, or maybe there was too many kids there, or maybe his wife wasn't asleep yet, or whatever. I would just try to figure that out in my mind, but it would never happen. And that's pretty sad, you know, because that's how normal it was in my childhood home.
So how can those who are in that home situation, you went to the friends whose father did not come in and molest you, what advice can you give for those who might be able to look on other girls who might be having a terrible experience? How can they help them? How can they help the families? Or what advice is there for alerting, I guess, the authorities to behaviours that are just not acceptable?
You know, that really is a tricky situation, because you don't know what that, if it's the father, you don't know what he's going to do or what he's capable of. If that, for me, growing up, we were petrified because we knew our dad would kill us. At least that's what he put into our minds.
Yes.
But you don't know when you come across a different family, you don't know what you're getting into. And they could come after you. So I guess the best way is just, I would want to help. I wouldn't care, me personally. I wouldn't care. I would do it. I would do it like that.
Yeah.
But you do have to watch, and you have to sum up the situation. Maybe there's a way to plan it out to get the child away from the home, or even the teenager away from the home, and then call the authorities. I don't know. Every situation is different.
Yeah.
I think your story is such an inspiring one for gals who've been through it and now are working the puzzle. So the two books, the name of the first one, as we know, Behind Closed Doors. What's the name of the second one?
The second one is called Journey to the Heart.
All right.
And that's exactly what it was. It was a journey directly to my heart.
I think the best medicine at this point in time is to, gals, if this fits you, if this is something you would like to see more or hear more about, go get the books. And tell us about your the contacts.
Yeah, the website where people can get a hold of those books.
Yes, they're on ElizaAnneMcDaniel.com. That's Anne spelled with the E. There's also, I've got a few little podcasts that are up right now that a friend of mine and I are working on. Now, in the United States, you can order off the webpage, off the website. But outside of the United States, you'd have to get them off of Amazon. And the easiest way to do it is go up to the search bar and just type in Eliza Anne McDaniel. because I found out that there's lots of books called Behind Closed Doors and A Journey to the Heart. That would be the easiest way. But also, I've written 2 screenplays as well. I've written a short screenplay and a long screenplay, just waiting for the right person to come along.
And you never know.
You never know.
On that one. And don't be discouraged. I think the average time from screenplay to writing to fruition and green lighting is often 8 to 10 years. So,
yes, yeah,
you know,
I figured that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a lot of things in my books. Just in summary here, I wrote my books. I say I show my scars that others may heal. So I've been open and honest in the books, and the humiliation and the pain that came with it. But what I hope the readers can do is see how my life was, and how eventually I put my own puzzle pieces together. That I've had so many spiritual dreams and visions, and that has helped me along the way. And maybe they can use mine as a reference or a guidance to put their own puzzle pieces of life together and to help them heal.
Absolutely.
Exactly right.
I think it's a example that no matter how much pain or suffering that someone is in, there is hope for you. Eliza is a living example that there is hope for you to be able to move beyond the pain and the suffering and the hurt that is there. And it begins with the journey of forgiveness, as Eliza said. So,
and it's not an instant
no
thing either, but it's a very healing thing.
Yes.
And it happens over time, I suppose.
It does.
Yeah.
But Eliza, you have had some things given to you as lessons, probably you're still working on.
Yes,
But,
always.
yeah, but the one that is so profound right now is how you have worked through this enough so that you're such a brave gal. Thank you.
Yeah.
For being here, for doing this, for speaking to the ladies. I know there's some right now that are going to go right to the site, get these books, and start a process because they're simply tired of what's going on, I think, from them personally.
It is. And I am working on the 3rd book, hopefully to complete the trilogy, but who knows? There may be more after that.
Who knows?
There's a lot to share.
Great.
There's a lot to share.
All right.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It's courageous, it's inspiring, and it's just filled with such love and compassion. And for anyone out there who has had similar experiences as you're listening into this, the more we can awaken to our higher purpose, our higher potential of the journey of self-forgiveness, we are providing a couch for others to also awaken and heal. And we're not sure where you are in the journey of your healing, if you've been affected by a similar circumstance, but just feel in your heart that all 3 of us right now are just sending so much love and support for your journey. We see you as perfect. We see you as healed and holding the joy in your heart. So once again, thank you so much, Eliza.
Oh, thank both of you so much. It's been an honor to be here and to be able to share my story, because my heart's always wanted people to heal from not only this type of abuse, but any abuse that's out there.
That's
And
great.
they can.
Yeah.
They can.
Yeah.
And to all of those ladies who are watching right now, that this has struck a chord in them for similar circumstances or anything else, I will say to them right now personally, wouldn't this be a great time for solution? And maybe you're here on purpose to have heard this. Maybe you have friends that need to hear this. This would be a great day to start the healing that'll change your life. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll do this again. Different
Yes.
topics for our times. Thanks.